Hi there, you're watching the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. In the next half hour, we'll see what's making the headlines with journalists Theo Usherwood and Carolyn Quinn. So let's see what is on some of those front pages tomorrow. On the front of the Metro, news that a pay-as-you-go app for train travel that could make travel cheaper and easier has begun trialling in some parts of the UK today. In The Guardian, doctors say they found a drug that is better than aspirin at preventing heart attacks and strokes in a discovery that could transform health guidelines. The Mirror says Keir Starmer has vowed to tackle reform's fear tactics with a range of policies that offer genuine hope. The Daily Express has launched a campaign demanding police take more action to tackle the shoplifting crisis that's currently costing shops more than £2.2 billion a year. In The Telegraph, they feature a report claiming that a young Queen Camilla was the victim of an attempted sexual assault as a schoolgirl. And that alleged attack is also on the front of The Sun. The Star features an alleged sighting of the Loch Ness Monster, Nellie, who hasn't been spotted since May, making another appearance. Can we believe that one? Let's discuss it later. We're joined now by journalist Theo Usherwood and Carolyn Quinn. Maybe we'll get on to Nessie a bit later on tonight. You never know, it's always an interesting one. But let's start off, Theo, with the front of the Daily Telegraph. Big picture of Queen Camilla there. But I'd like to discuss 3 votes Rayner underneath. That's their headline. Postal ballot puts tax claims in doubt. This is all to do with Angela Rayner. I think that is the 3rd day on the bounce that the Telegraph's featured a story about the Deputy Prime Minister on his front page.
Yes, the Deputy Prime Minister is on the front of a number of the Sunday papers as well today, and the Daily Telegraph have done some research. They've gone through the electoral records, which of course are a matter of public record, and they've found the Deputy Prime Minister has, firstly, a postal vote in her constituency home in Ashton-under-Lyme, and then in Westminster, of course, she has that Grace and Favour flat in Admiralty House. However, she's also down to vote in person in Hove, where she's bought that £800,000 seafront apartment back in May, the paper reports. Now, there's no suggestion that the Deputy Prime Minister has broken any of the rules, but I think the problem for Angela Rayner, and this is the charge from the Conservatives, is that at a time when Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, is going to have to find tens of billions of pounds yet again in tax rises, that this will stink of hypocrisy. And that's the danger that lands. And of course, you think back to last summer, we were discussing this just before we came on air, and Keir Starmer and the row about his spectacles and access for Lord
Taylor Swift tickets and everything else.
And all the rest of it. And ministers have done nothing wrong, including the Prime Minister, have done nothing wrong in terms of the rules. But it didn't pass the smell test with the British public, and I think that's the problem facing Angela Rayner, is that she can't just not say anything and expect this story to go away, because once the Daily Telegraph and the Daily Mail, have their teeth into something and they think that their readers, it matters to their readers, they're not going to let it go.
No, I mean, they clearly feel that there is a lot more ground to cover, and they've been dripping out various elements of this story over the past couple of days. Angela Rayner says she has done nothing unlawful. In fact, she hasn't spoken personally about it at all. And a lot of people are saying, look, you really do need to come out now and stamp this down. Either make clear what the arrangements are, at least address the story, rather than say, well, look, we're within the rules, we've done exactly what other governments have done, everything's fine. But as Theo was saying, that's what they did when it came to the freebies issue last year. And that story ran and ran, and eventually they had to tackle it. Interestingly, if you think back, a couple of weeks ago, Rushanara Ali resigned, didn't she, as homelessness minister, when there were some stories written about the way that she had handled her own rental properties. Now, she didn't do anything wrong, but she said that she felt that she needed to be beyond reproach. And I think it's the perception thing, isn't it? That, as Lord McConnell has said, you don't want it to look as if Angela Rayner falls into that group of people that feel that there's one rule for ministers and another rule for the common people.
Yes, as we all know, when there is a vacuum of information, then someone else will fill it for you, won't they? And that certainly happens with the perception of a story.
It's also, I think, been slightly worrying, I think, the way that, and I've heard we've heard some rhetoric where, ministers have, sought to defend Angela Rayner's privacy being attacked, or, that newspapers, we don't have a right to know exactly what the arrangements are.
Yeah.
And nobody would dispute the fact that Angela Rayner has a right to spend her money as she sees fit.
Yeah.
But there is a question about hypocrisy, I think, here.
Then again, Theo, her private life may be quite complicated, as many people's private lives are, when one relationship ends and another one begins and there are children involved, and but maybe she's just working through the admin of sorting this stuff out.
Yes, but she needs to be clear. And absolutely, Matt, you're quite right. I think people's lives are complicated, and it's no different for senior ministers within the government to have complicated lives, and nobody would judge anybody for that. But I think it needs to be clear that the arrangements were in place were to, if this was the case, to whether it's to manage a particular arrangement, but not to seek to, and I use this word advisedly, avoid paying tax.
Well, she has not done anything
She's
unlawful.
not done anything wrong, no.
And this is the thing. So maybe a bit more clarity would help, although obviously there would probably, I imagine, be some in the government and some in the opposition who perhaps think if you start opening doors and being completely transparent about everything like this, then what more will have to be uncovered about other people's arrangements?
I'd love to know, wouldn't you?
We don't have that sort of system here. People are entitled to have privacy, even if they're a cabinet minister. But maybe a bit of clarity on her part would help.
I think also, just as a broader question, Parliament's coming back tomorrow. Keir Starmer needs to have a reset. We're talking about, rearranging the deck chairs with those who work within Number 10 and possibly a reshuffle with amongst the junior ministers as well. This is not the story he needs. This is not what the Number 10 spokesman needs to be asked about repeatedly at the lobby briefing tomorroh.
They'd like to have been talking about the education issue today. Bridget Phillipson was out earlier, talking about the after-school clubs, the breakfast clubs, the increase in free school meals. That's the sort of message that they were hoping to start off a new term with.
But the line that stick is the response to what Reformer have been saying over the past week. Let's shift our attention, Carolyn, to the front page of The Guardian. It's a bit of a mixed bag across the front pages we've seen so far. And their lead story is an interesting one. I don't think it's one that anyone else has got. A drug that's better than aspirin at preventing heart attacks, reports Andrew Gregory from a big shindig in Madrid, it looks like.
Yes, and you and I have been trying to work out how to actually pronounce this new drug, which I won't have a try at it.
I'll leave it to you.
Well, it looks like clopidogrel.
Or clopidogrel.
Or clopidogrel. But,
either way, it's good.
There will be experts who know, but the essence of this is that some very, very clever people have found this drug that's better than aspirin at preventing heart attacks and strokes. And Andrew Gregory suggests that it's a discovery that could transform health guidelines worldwide. Because, of course, for decades, people have been advised to take aspirin, haven't they, to reduce the risk of experiencing some sort of heart event.
Yes.
A daily low-dose aspirin, people have been told, is a good thing to have. Well, this may now replace that. And the findings challenge that long-standing recommendation of aspirin as the default treatment. Whether it moves on beyond a discovery and becomes common usage, that will, of course, be the next question. And whether NICE will take it on as the sort of medicine that can then be described and used on the NHS.
The difference here is, though, you can just go and get aspirin for, £1 off the shelf, can't you? Which makes it so accessible and so easy.
But on the plus side, this drug is described by Andrew as a commonly prescribed blood thinner. So we're not talking about necessarily something that's coming straight to the market and it's going to cost potentially, hundreds of dollars per prescription or hundreds of pounds per prescription for the NHS. This sounds like this. The suggestion in this article in the Guardian is that actually this is quite a readily available drug that's already being used as a blood thinner and actually can be much more effective. And this is, it's a study on 29,000 patients. And there are 2.3 million people. I didn't realise it's 29.3. 2.3 million people in Britain. This could potentially be something of a breakthrough.
But how great to have a headline like that, a positive story about something that could be within reach of most people.
I think the key word in it as well is preventing. And we're seeing, aren't we, the NHS shift more from cure towards prevention. We're trying to obviously minimise the impact that patients have on the NHS and its creaking resources. The fact that it's something that is already there and seemingly not too costly could make such a big difference could be massive for the NHS, couldn't it?
It would be huge, and Wes Streeting has been, absolutely clear that the NHS can't just continue as business as usual. He's managed to secure a lot more money, 30 billion pounds extra for the NHS from Rachel Reeves, but in return for that money, he expects and he needs the NHS to reform and to move not just from the expensive process of treating serious illnesses like coronary heart disease, but to actually preventing it from happening in the first place. And so, if this is something that can save the NHS money in the, serious amounts of money in the long run, it has to be welcome.
Let's shift our attention to the Daily Express, Theo, because their headline relates to a story that will drive a lot of people nuts because it's so infuriating. Police told end shop theft sprees. Now, the Express is putting its weight behind this, saying it's a campaign to stop the shoplifting crisis, which costs an absolute fortune.
Yes, it's an interesting one, this. The Daily Express have launched this campaign, which, it says obviously to try and stop or clamp down on shoplifting, which is costing businesses, stores, £2.2 billion a year. And their top demand is that police must attend every reported theft. I think it's a good campaign. This is clearly, an issue that needs to be dealt with. I would just question whether that's realistic. I'd like it to be realistic. I think businesses, if you're a business owner and you're watching this programme, they would think that it's perfectly reasonable that if they have thefts from their store, that a shop, that the police turn up and investigate. But I just hazard a guess that this, if a police chief was to react to this tomorrow morning, I would hazard a guess that they would say that it is completely unrealistic for this to happen.
Absolutely. And where do you stop? Because they don't turn up for burglaries and they don't turn up for car accidents and they don't turn up for lots of things. I wonder as well, there'll be people watching who own businesses who think of this and think, well, I'm already paying for security and they can't do a thing.
I feel this story has been around, not necessarily the Daily Express campaign, but they certainly are hitting on something that a lot of people are concerned about. But as you say, the practicalities have been discussed over and over. We know that shoplifting rates are going up. Maybe it's cost of living, but the Express is saying opportunistic stealing sprees by professionals and some hard-up pensioners are soaring to record levels. Even vulnerable children are turning to thieving for criminals exploiting them. But this has been an issue that has been growing. We know that there are also fears among security staff about tackling shoplifters. People have reported over and over that they see people going in quite blatantly, taking large amounts of things from shelves.
Unchallenged, and they just walk straight out again.
But the idea that police must attend every reported theft, where are the police? Where are the forces going to find the personnel to do that, and how will it be funded? We're going to leave that one there. But I should tell you, just on the front page of the Express as well, is a rather dashing picture of Jude Law, who is going to play Vladimir Putin. See what he had to say about that role, and maybe we'll be able to get a picture of him in character as well after the break.
I'm Stuart Ramsey, and I'm Sky's chief correspondent. Free wherever you get your news.
I'm Mark Stone, and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C. Sky News, get the full story first.
I'm Katie Spencer, and I'm Sky News' arts and entertainment correspondent.
I'm Lisa Dowd and I'm one of Sky's Midlands correspondents. The reason I do this job is because you never know where it's going to lead.
Go ahead, back white jacket.
Deborah Haynes from Sky News. He called you Daddy earlier.
No, he did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy. Thank you.
Leicester is on its knees.
They've ripped the soul out of my factory and there's nothing left.
It is eerily quiet.
It's constantly on the brink of capacity.
There's overcrowding. It's not a new thing.
It's rough.
There's nothing to hide. Why aren't international journalists allowed in?
Are you worried about escalation?
Of course I'm worried about escalation, which is why my focus is on de-escalation.
The region, I think, is on edge because they are anticipating a retaliation.
Iran retaliates for the US attacks.
Founding principle of the alliance, that an attack on one is an attack on all.
Could Putin attack another NATO country within 5 years?
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
Live here from Washington.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place. And all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
My most memorable story was, and still is, the disappearance of Madeleine McCann.
Please give our little girl back.
I can't undo what's happened, but I can help explain it.
Hear that whistle and that crunch? We know that they're coming from the south of the city where there's a column of Russian armoury.
I'm Alex Crawford and I'm Sky's special correspondent based in Istanbul.
Look at that sheet of flames, and that has happened within minutes, and now it's coming from both sides, and it's moving this way.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos, analysis, up at 6%. Podcasts, watching us live.
Joins us live.
All in one place, and all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview here on Sky News. With me in the studio, journalists Theo Asherwood and Caroline Quinn. Let's start this bit, both of you, talking about, well, a couple of the papers, because the stories are related. The Daily Mirror has its headline, Starmer's Project Hope, I'll defeat Farage scare tactics, which echoes what we were hearing from Bridget Phillipson today, saying she thinks Reform are whipping things up effectively. The Times has a related story, slightly different tack, if you like, leaving the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights, not a threat to Ulster peace. And that's from a Labour grandee. Interesting takes on this one, Caroline.
Yeah, absolutely, because when Nigel Farage has talked about mass deportations, but also withdrawing from the European Convention on Human Rights as a way of being able to detain and deport individuals.
Yeah.
Also, he's talked about pulling out of the 1951 Refugee Convention.
Yeah.
So that, he says, Britain can tackle this crisis without people appealing for family rights.
And bring in a UK Bill of Rights is what they say they would want to do too.
Exactly, because at the moment the ECHR is enshrined in a Bill of Rights that is covered by UK law. Now, ditching the ECHR would have dangerous consequences for the Good Friday Agreement. Now, that was the argument that was made at the time when Nigel Farage was proposing this. Since then, there have been a number of senior figures within the Labour Party who've said that maybe parts of it should be amended, or we should suspend our membership of the ECHR for a certain period to try to tackle this crisis. And interestingly, the Times picks up on that warning about the consequences for the Good Friday Agreement and says that actually those warnings are baseless, that withdrawing from the European Convention on Human Rights will not jeopardise peace in Northern Ireland. And they say that this report that's been pulled together by the Policy Exchange think tank has been backed by the former Labour Home Secretary Jack Straw, who is indeed one of these senior Labour figures, who's been saying that maybe now is the time to suspend our membership.
And a former lawyer as well, no
Former
less.
lawyer, yes, and he certainly knows his stuff. So that is a very lively debate ongoing, and I think that is a development of what's been said over the past couple of days.
Interesting that, you know, the government with this huge majority and Reform with its 4 MPs are clashing over this, because we've seen how far ahead Reform are in the polls. And as Parliament gets back together tomorrow...
But Nigel Farage has led the debate on this by having daily press conferences or weekly press conferences every Monday during the summer, leaving the vacuum to be filled by his call for more drastic action and mass deportation of illegal migrants.
I wonder who played Nigel Farage in a film of his life. We'll have to wait for that one. But Jude Law, no less, is going to step into the shoes of Vladimir Putin. That features on the front page of The Express, not in character there. It's mentioned on a couple of the other front pages. The Daily Telegraph mentions it by saying, Law goes Marshall. Jude as Putin, how flattering. Maybe it is, but I think we've got a picture of him in character. There he is on the left. I thought it was Martin Freeman when I first saw it, but there you go. It's pretty good. Maybe is it flattering to Vladimir Putin to be played by Jude Law? I mean, he was incredibly handsome in The Talented Mr. Ripley. Is it flattering?
I think Putin would probably see it as a minor point to chalk up, a small win. I always think it's always slightly risky trying to play a living. I think there's no danger if the subject has died, but I think trying to get your pitch exactly right, according to somebody who a public figure or a world leader like Vladimir Putin, while they're still alive, is a really risky. Can be quite a risky thing to do. But Jude Law's embraced it.
Even more risky when it's Vladimir Putin, perhaps.
But I think this is... I've just had a brief look at what this film's about, but it's looking at how he came to power.
The Wizard of the Kremlin, it's called.
Yeah, and remember the days when Vladimir Putin was on the world stage, was welcomed as an international figure, was even talking at one point about joining NATO, joining the EU, perhaps. So, maybe this is looking back at a time of his life when he was more acceptable and not the pariah that he's regarded as now.
He's doing well, Jude Law. Oscar-nominated, of course, played a Pope as well, I seem to remember, playing Putin. I wonder who he'll take on next. Maybe he'll take on Nigel Farage. That would be interesting. OK, thank you both for the time being. Let's take a look now at the weather.